want to get back to Oliver on the challenges our city faces and what advice you would give the incoming council.
Well, yeah, number one, I think Jeff makes a great point earlier. Small to mid-sized cities are struggling across the U.S., and if you don't have a state capital or a major university that is a steady, I'll call revenue source or employer, it's a headwind. So Shreveport just has to acknowledge that, and it is a trend nationally. One of the things I would really encourage, and I've tried to encourage it across the council and as well as the citizens, is citizen involvement. Now, we talk communication a little bit, but the more the citizens can do to alert people of the problems rather than complaining about the problems would really be helpful. We have a good system already on our website that allows people to log in a concern, and then it goes right to the department head or the actual, not even the department head, it goes to the division office or the actual person that can fix it, i.e. a pothole. And things like that could really streamline the system, because when somebody complains on social media but then doesn't tell anybody, then by the time a councilman gets the complaint, then I don't know who does potholes, but I know who the department head. So I send an email to the department head. Department head hands it to the division hands it to the guy who has a truck. I mean, that is not the most efficient way to run an organization, particularly when we have systems in place. So
the genesis of city services probably shouldn't be Facebook. Is that what you're telling me?
That is what I'm saying. And certainly now that we have these new means of communication. And then second is, taking ownership. By the way, litter, that's us. I mean, that is us. Abandoned properties, that is us. Maintaining our front yards, that is us.
And when you say us, you mean citizens.
Yeah. I mean, that is everybody's responsibility. And let me
throw something there. If you throw stuff out your car window and you want to complain about trashy looking Shreveport, shame on you.
And I would say, whether you're throwing it out or whether you threw it in the back of your pickup truck and you drove down the road and it blew out, it is the same thing.
Yes.
You had talked about both Jeff and Oliver a little bit about term limits and being, running out of time. How long did it take you into your first term to get a sense of how the bureaucracy worked? And is that, in your mind, sort of an argument against term limits? I.e., I've been in this 8 years. I'm just starting to understand. Jeff, how long were you into your first term before you said, oh, I think I got a handle on this?
I had a good understanding because I'd worked in and around government before, but I mean, every organization, I think it's one of those things I think it's interesting from the outside that you wouldn't know is when you see a frustrating decision made or something that you're like, why would they do that? That's probably not because everyone thought it was a great idea. It could be because of the result of a lawsuit or because of some federal or state requirement or some other motivating reason that you have to do certain things. A camel is a compromise, like right? No one really wanted to do Peace with the Pipes campaign, that was a requirement, things like that are things that I don't think from the outside. So to get that perspective, it takes a little while. And so I think anybody who's elected in this next term to focus early on just in reading and digesting as much as they possibly can is helpful.
Michael, how about you? Did you have any experience in government? I mean, theoretically, for somebody like me who has zero government experience and really no interest at all in reading a lot of stuff, how long? Not that you're
not unique in that part. Just so we're clear,
the three of us may be unique in the amount that we read.
So, since I'm certainly not the exception, I come to find out, how long did it take you to get a handle on things?
Yeah, it really did take a minute. I came from a business background and had worked for the school system for a number of years early in my career. So I knew a little bit about how government worked and the fact that it's not always the most efficient and fastest. But I talked to previous council members and mentors, and the three of us talked a lot. We actually looked at the agenda before we walked into the council meeting and had an idea about what we were voting on and what it meant. And that helped a lot. But you don't just walk in day one and know what you're doing, know how the vote goes, because, as a candidate, and especially between election and inauguration, everybody's giving you their idea. Oh, I want a law that does this. I want a law that does this. And you realize day one, the first time you sit in that circle, it's not quite that easy.
Oliver, you were in the military for 1,000 years. What was which is more efficient, city government or the military?
Well, when we were in the chariots in the first 100 of my 1,000 years, it's really just hub and spoke. So, no.
Oh, man, you got your musket out.
Okay, so I'd say two things. Though the government is similar, the other part is the military is very different in the sense that personnel are always moving, right? There's progression. You're in a particular spot for 3 years and then you move on. There isn't near the upward mobility or transition or kind of necessarily buy-in from personnel at the very lowest level. So that's a difference. I'd say really in terms of budgets, I got the advantage of being elected early. And so I sat through the budget cycle before being elected, which was quite helpful. And I think they would agree that the day that I got there, I had just seen a little bit more about how the city was operating financially. So that was an advantage for me. But it's hard to compare the United States Marine Corps to the city of Shreveport other than they're big. I mean, that's it.
And the Marines has Jeff Everson-like discipline.
Yeah. we actually require people to shave in the morning before coming to work. But beyond that, I mean,
I want to talk about the budget when we come back.